Excellent. Well, it's wonderful to have everyone here. This is one of the later Ion student protagonisms for me in Mountain Time here, but survivably late. Lynn, I think you beat me. It's probably a little hour later where you are. We are thrilled today to have five learners who have been doing extraordinary things with AI, and their advisor, John Pennington, who helped to organize all of this. This is going to be a slightly different one. Sometimes in the past, we've stopped as we go, right, to ask questions of each learner after they present their project. These learners have a whole show organized for us already, right? So we're going to just enjoy their show. They've figured out who's doing what and how they're moving through their material. Please definitely, if as questions arise, feel free to ask those questions in the chat, please. And of course, once they're making sure, we're all making sure that there will be enough time to ask lots and lots of questions in the second half of the hour. So, either hold those questions so that you can share them out loud or just drop them into the chat as you think of them. And we'll have a really nice, lively dialogue with our learners in that last portion of time. So I'm Jennifer Klein, thrilled to have you all here for Ion Student Protagonism, and I am going to shut up now and pass it over to our learners. Oh, and one other thing before we start, questions for John, please feel free to drop those into the chat, right? Remember, everyone, that in these events, we really try to keep as much of our focus as we can on the learners and their experience. But we do want to make sure that those of you in the room who really want to learn how this is being done and the design and organization in the background are able to ask your questions as well. So please feel free to ask those questions, starting out in the chat, and we'll elevate them and have you say them out loud once we get to questions later. All right. All right. So now it's your turn, and I'll shut up for real.
Can everyone see these slides? Let's make sure this works. Okay.
I guess we'll start with introductions. I'll go first. My name is Liz. I go to Punahou School.
And my name is Yandri, and I'm from Hawai'i Technology Academy.
My name is Maheleni Jackson. I go to Kamehameha.
My name is Anson Lee, and I go to Kalani High School.
Aloha, everybody. My name is Gigi Kiabu, and I'm currently a senior at Mid-Pacific on Oahu.
So, hi guys, I'm Maheleni Jackson. As I just said, I go to Kamehameha schools, and AI has allowed me to completely change my life. And while I go more in depth later on, I'm going to give you guys a brief synopsis to kind of set everything up, the stage for today. So I grew up as a kid who was very hyper, could not pay attention in class, very ADHD, although I didn't know it at the time. And I found it the hardest time. I had the hardest time paying attention in elementary, let alone middle school, which I only got half of because COVID ended things. And so I thankfully was able to learn from home, learn from my computer. Things were very much easy until I came back to school, straight into high school. So pretty much elementary, short middle school experience. Bam, I'm in high school. I have these long classes. I can't pay attention. The workload is nothing like I'm used to, compared to online COVID classes. And I found myself completely stuck. And so my first 2 years of high school, freshman, sophomore, I was not doing well grade-wise. But I am a huge nerd. I love learning. I spent all my free periods reading books, learning things, nonfiction, and I was feeling frustrated because, again, why wasn't my love for learning reflected in my GPA and what I was doing? And I realized that the way that I was being taught in school and the environment that I was in simply just wasn't suited for my brain. And so the second that I started to find tools and find ways of, okay, wait, how is something that I learn and ways that I do things that I can modify what's being taught in my class? And I came across AI, and while I do go again more in depth later on in the slide, so I was able to use AI to allow myself to learn better, make learning more appealing to me, and go from failing my freshman and sophomore years to then achieving half of my bachelor's degree in high school, getting all A's my junior and senior year, and now being able to run my own business and helping other students get ahead with AI as well. And so today's presentation, there's a whole bunch of amazing stories as well of how us students are able to not only help ourselves learn better and approach problems better with AI, but also take charge of our own future and our own learning when it comes to, making a difference in what we want to do with our lives, when it comes to new modern technology. And so AI is a super hot topic now when it comes to education, a lot of controversy. All we ask is you guys have an open mind and yeah, be open to hearing about our stories.
Hi, everyone. We're incredibly excited to have you here today, and we're representing 5 schools, but we are united by one shared mission, right? Our purpose is to show how student agency can align with AI use and not clash with it. We want to share our real experiences and how each of us have used AI to support our dreams, overcome barriers, and redefine what is possible. You'll hear our stories, get practical advice for empowering yourself and your students, and join an open discussion where your voice matters too. We believe that AI isn't something to fear, and it's a tool to amplify who we are when guided by strong values and purpose.
In today's meeting, we will start off by sharing our stories, and then we'll be offering you guys advice for empowering yourself and your students, and then we'll have our open discussion at the end, so feel free to leave any comments in the chat or think about which questions you want to ask us.
Okay, but before we get started with our stories, I would like to first introduce kind of the negative stigma that is often kept around AI and how I'm gonna break that down a little bit for you guys before we head into it. So we often think that AI is just a negative thing, but I want to kind of turn that into a vision about how everything has pros and cons and how everything is basically what we make of it. So first of all, people often think that AI diminishes human connection, but I actually think it's the opposite. If we use it correctly, it can actually broaden our possibilities. A great example is how I wouldn't have met this amazing community of students and this awesome group if we weren't all interested in furthering our independent learning through AI. Learning how to use these tools, I feel like brings people together, and AI can also be used to free up time and do tasks faster so that you have more time for human connection instead of just doing tedious tasks that can be solved with AI. Some people also think it creates dependence, but I like to think that it creates opportunities to be more independent with learning. As you'll see later on in the presentation, a lot of these projects create so much independent learning where students have full control over how they want to take on a project, how they want to start a project, and how the project ends. I also believe that people think that AI shortcuts learning, but prompt engineering is actually a really difficult thing to get very good at. And I think that learning how to use the AI in and of itself is a learning curve. And so that is a skill. And so it's not just used by lazy students who want to cheat, but students who want to learn how to use a new useful tool. The last one is some people think that AI can be pretty ethically ambiguous, but as we're going to probably mention later on in this presentation, if it is aligned with your values and you actually think about your values and think about how you're using AI, it doesn't become ambiguous anymore. And so using this tool in and of itself is taking away all of the ambiguity, and it's reducing the fear of the unknown that can kind of cling to this subject. Next. So how can we break this stigma now that we know what the stigma is about? I think that the main thing is just being transparent. Transparency with your students, your coworkers, your leaders. You're already, all of you who are watching this presentation are on the first steps because you are reaching out to learn from students about how we use AI. But creating just an open environment in your classroom to talk about AI with your students is key to make AI feel more like a useful and powerful tool rather than this mysterious, omniscient taboo that should never be talked about. Possible things you could do is create an open AI policy with your students and be open to discussing and deliberating with them when they want to. Next. Okay, that was the fun part. So everybody is going to share their story about how they used AI to accomplish some goals in their life. And on the next slide, we have some guiding questions that you guys can take note of. These are what we use to create our presentations and kind of how they're organized. So look forward to that. And I'm going to pass it to Ziandri.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ziandri Ortiz, and I am a junior at Hawai'i Technology Academy. People may describe me as a leader, a curious person, and a service lover, and so maybe I can show you guys why I'm perceived this way in my next few slides. Sorry, my internet's a little slow. Okay. The start of my love for AI began when I joined the course by the name of The Skills, and mind you, I was completely new to the topic of AI, and so I started by making silly little chatbots on ChatGPT. As you can see, I made this bot named Fashion Buzz, and it was just made to help me create outfits. So I guess that's like a guiding on where I started. And from there, it kind of just sparked my love for AI, and I began to integrate it more in my lifestyle. And I started making schedule planners. I started like helping me with math, because one thing about me is I cannot learn math if it's too in detail and if you go too deep into an explanation on what math is. And like so I can only learn if it's just a straightforward and if it's step by step by step, and if I learn by memorizing the steps. So ChatGPT was there for me because my teacher would teach it in a way that I found hard to learn. So that's how ChatGPT helped me with not cheating, as many people may see it as, but learning in a way that's helpful for me. And now we're going to see how AI changed my life on my next slide. So my use of AI has given me many opportunities to share and lead. And an example of this was when our school's director and counselor, they reached out to me and they wanted me to present at our board meeting where all of our staff would watch, and I shared on my experience with AI to help form our first ever AI policy. And after that, I just kept getting invited to share and create. And I learned that I've inspired our pre-calculus teacher at our school to make his very own AI chatbot. And it's pretty cool because he makes this chatbot, it's unit paced, and he builds it himself, where he gives it to students as a resource. When he's not available to help them or anything, they can just go to this chatbot, they'll type in any questions. But the coolest part is that he gets to see any questions you ask the chatbot, so he can see where you need room for improvement. And then he'll meet with you afterwards and be like, what's the struggle with this? Do you still need help with this? And so on. And because I'm like one of the only people at my school that has somewhat knowledge of AI, since it's such a new topic, I was praised for it, and they want me to spread more. And they had me pitch an idea with Mahea actually to my school on Expedition AI, which is an AI that is kind of like an assistant in your classroom, but you guys get to learn, the students and the teachers together will learn how to use AI through like a fun course, through videos and little projects. And it's amazing. AI really has changed my life and provided me with so many different ways I can use it and allow myself to help others with it too. And learners and not learners and teachers, students and teachers get to use it together to create a better learning environment for all of us. And that's my story on how it's helped me become and shape how I learn. But now I'll pass it to Gigi for her story.
I'll pass it to Anson really fast, and then we'll come back to me.
Okay,
Thank
my
you,
bad,
Rosie.
Gigi, my bad. Okay, hope everyone's day has been going well. My name is Anson Lee, and of course, I'm from Kalani High School. So I wanted to share a little bit about how I use AI and how it's changed my life in terms of education, right? So let's begin. Um, First of all, I love spending time with people. Of course, you see all these different events that I've had. I went on a little one date with my friend. We had a hot pot night with my air rifle team. I did some volunteering with Key Club at our local zoo, and then I also like to cook a lot, and I do a lot of cooking for my friends. So this is a little time where we had a cookout. But spending time with friends and also taking it 4 APs, classes, junior year, all that, getting ready for college, that contradicts, right? So, oops, let's go forward. Using AI as a tutor, and I bet you no one I've talked to, or like especially students or classmates that I have, they don't see AI as a tool, they see it as a cheating tool. Mostly like you get instant answers, right? But I'm here to tell you that one of the biggest advantages of using AI is its ability to become your tutor. And with the plus version, which I recently got after I split an account with my friends, you have the ability to make projects with that, which I think are really, really cool. And these projects allow me to organize chats under one theme, like a class, and focus on specific weak points in that like project itself. So as you can see, I have a bunch of like different chats with different topics or different assignments that I've worked on for my AP Chem class, and I can tailor it to give it specific instructions through this button right here, and it'll tell me hints. It'll give me hints on how to solve problems, connections, and patterns. So it doesn't give me a direct answer, and instead of that, I'm learning. I'm learning how to make these connections to expand like how I can apply these skills. When I run out of practice problems, like when my teacher gives me, I can create tailored questions that sharpen my weak spots. So I'll ask ChatGPT, hey, generate me some problems on blah, blah, blah about this, right? And if you take a look at this picture on the right here, it gave me 3 problems on solubility, one of my biggest weak points during AP Chem. And I was allowed to polish this. And by shifting AI from just an instant answer generator to a tailored tutor, you unlock its true potential. It empowers students to take charge of their own learning and explore complex ideas more and build real connections across these themes, something you won't get through the regular classroom. Now, AI didn't only change how I learned, but it helped me create. So back last year, towards the end of the year in November, December, I decided to try out something new and started a small t-shirt company, a part of my engineering class. It was just something I was curious about and something I wanted to give a go. Let's see how it turned out. But I didn't know how to do anything when I first started. With AI, that curiosity turned into action. Whether it was brainstorming names, refining designs like the one you see here, or writing product descriptions, ChatGPT became my creative partner. It allowed me and it guided me through steps that I didn't know I even needed to take, breaking down these complex processes of running a business and turning my ideas into something real. For me, that's the power of AI. It's not just about getting answers, it's about having the confidence to explore, experiment, and build something of your own. Now, in terms of the future, what I want to do with artificial intelligence, I want to think about a problem that we all students have. It's I have so much to do, but where do I start? To solve that, I want to make a app that uses AI to organize and prioritize your works based on what really matters to you specifically. Here's how it works. You enter your assignments like over here into basically a database. It'll scan for keywords like project, essay, exam review, all that. And from there, it ranks each task by priority and how much it weighs. And based on like tracking how you've completed assignments in the past, which you can feed the data yourself, you'll it'll able it'll be able to learn how you perform and how you work. So it generates a custom to-do list for you to keep moving forward and not feel overwhelmed. It's like a productivity tracker, but it's a smart system that helps understand you and get your things done. So because the future of learning isn't just like more tech and just it's AI is not cheating, it's a smarter support that puts students in control. So that's my story that I wanted to share with you guys today. And now I'll pass it to Mahea, I believe. Thank you.
Actually, sorry, Anson, I'll be presenting. But I'll just introduce myself again. Hi, everybody. My name is Gigi Kiabu, and I'm currently a senior at Mid-Pacific on Oahu. I'm currently sitting outside, so please don't mind the birds above me. But these are kind of the pictures you see on the screen right now are kind of the 4 pillars of my life. And so a term that my mom always talks to me about is force multiplying, right? And so I want to talk to you guys today about how AI is my force multiplier. And so kind of through the pillars of my life of innovation, leadership, collaboration, and athletics as well. I want to talk to you guys today about how kind of AI makes it all possible for me. Next, please. Thank you. So first of all, the why. Why do I utilize artificial intelligence in my work? And so first, I use it to streamline my academic learning. And just like kind of what Anson and Ziandri talked or touched upon, it helps me to kind of streamline the research process, um, as well as gaining better background behind the different assignments, kind of learning about the demands of each project and each assignment or each essay. So it helps me to kind of lay out a plan for what I may be needing to do, scheduling certain things. Overall, it just helps me to kind of use I use artificial intelligence to kind of make each process of my project or my academic learning go a little bit faster in times where I would want it to go a little bit faster or not at the same time. You know, I can really choose where I put my focus in each academic assignment. And secondly, it fuels my true extracurricular passions. And I think that when I'm given or when I'm allowed to streamline my process for academic learning, I'm also allowed to kind of carve out a place for my extracurricular passions. And for me, that would be food systems policy here in Hawaii, as well as artificial intelligence and human centered design. And so, kind of in combination with those two, I learned that AI truly does help me to live and learn, and it fuels my goals and my own personal goals, which is excellence, responsibility, and servant leadership. Next. And so, how exactly is AI my force multiplier? So, within my food systems policy in Hawaii, as we know in Hawaii, over 80% of our food is imported. And so, with my food policy work here in Hawaii, the big goal of my work is to kind of achieve sound policy, but also effective legislation that helps to move our food systems along, but also provide food in our public school systems for even our youngest children who may not have access to that, but also all the way up into what that looks like in a workplace as well, and having access to food and amenities and things like that. And so the first thing that AI helps me to do is to use the application of my human-centered design mindset. And so what does that mean? That means helping to empathize with the communities that I'm solving for. So first of all, the way that AI helps me to do that and empathize with communities that I'm solving for is to get historical and social context into who I may be working for. You know, that may differ from minority populations such as Native Hawaiians, or it may not be working for Native Hawaiians or other um, communities. You know, it just depends on who the problem is solving for. And so by getting that kind of social and historical context, using artificial intelligence to kind of give me a background for that, it helps me to find new community and client understandings at a faster rate. Um, and third, all of that is resulting in effective and tailored food systems policy. And so that's kind of been the biggest thing that artificial intelligence has helped me with, which is first applying human-centered design mindset to what I may be solving for, using artificial intelligence to give me background information, um, And then having that all result in something that is so effective, especially here in Hawaii, which something that's being so affected, such as our food systems here. And so, yes, that's how AI is my force multiplier. Next. All right, thank you. And so again, what is the result of all of this? So first off, I've been able to achieve my personal goals of excellence, servant leadership, and secondly, it helps me to be a world-ready learner. I know something that also is going to be coming up, right? I'm going to be going into college very shortly and then into the workplace. And so I'm going to be needing a background in artificial intelligence for a lot of the work that I do. And so this helps me to become a world-ready learner and continue this within my path through college. And then three, it helps me to be endlessly curious. You know, as a young learner again, and then going into college, I think the biggest thing that I love about AI is that it continues to kind of push the boundaries of what's possible. You know, I didn't even think that it was possible to implement artificial intelligence with my two other passions of food systems policy and human-centered design, but AI made it possible. And so I think that's the biggest thing I want to touch on today is that AI can make so many things possible for so many children like myself, and it all helps me to achieve my personal goals, be a world-ready learner, and have endless curiosity when it comes to many things in the future. And so with that, I think I want to share one last tip to all of you, which is to find out how AI can be your force multiplier in the work that you do, but also encouraging your peers and other students and faculty members how it can be their force multiplier. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I think I'll pass it on to Liz.
Thanks, Gigi. Hi, I'm Liz. I go to Punahou School and I'm a junior. And I like to call AI my North Star in science. This is partially because I can't help myself from sticking an astronomy pun in every single one of my sentences, but it's also because I consider AI kind of my guide or my anchor point when it comes to working on STEM projects, especially. Like the North Star, there are plenty of other stars or tools in the atmosphere for me to look at and use. But for AI, I like to use it as my, start or my anchor point for when I don't know where else to go. Here's just some pictures of me doing my work. I'd like to mention that AI has allowed me not only to reach into the AI community and the community of people around like my amazing group here, but also expand myself into other fields of science. So this is just a picture of me doing some stargazing at night and doing some recordings and observations. There's me in the bottom teaching a amazing father and son duo at the Institute for Astronomy open house this year. And there's me also with my science fair project that I had a lot of help from with AI this year. So I'm going to go through some of my main values and why I like to use AI. This is my first one. I just like all of you to bask in this glorious data.
Wow.
I have ADHD and dyscalculia. So if you're not aware, dyscalculia is basically dyslexia, but for numbers. So looking at the slide, you can imagine how painful doing science can be to me sometimes. I like to use AI to just streamline data processes as much as possible because I want to have to look at this as little as possible. And all of this is so discouraging, right? I mean, even though I love science, I love astronomy, a lot just looking at things like this where you're constantly going in circles of clicking on links and you have no idea what any of this vocabulary is, just using a simple AI search to say, hey, can you maybe explain this concept to me? Or can you summarize this data? Or can you just summarize this really old HTML website for me so I don't have to click all the links? Is so helpful and can just help you get started on a project. Because for me and for a lot of other people with ADHD and people whose minds are kind of like us, getting started is the hardest part. And without the start, you can't go anywhere. But if there's something like AI to kind of ease you into that process of starting a project, then it becomes so much easier. Next. And because it's easier, I have more time to do more thoughtful endeavors that I like to do myself. So these are just some pictures I've taken. I like to do astrophotography. So when I am not going through grueling sets of data, I like to take pictures. And then also, I like to make posters because outreach is one of my favorite parts of science. And so these are just some posters that me and my astronomy research group partners were allowed to hang up in one of the school hallways. Next. So another thing that is awesome about AI is that it helps independent learning so much. Right here, you're seeing a project that I worked on that was endorsed by teachers and started and assisted with AI. So I've had a very basic coding education, but using AI, I was able to kind of reteach myself how to code and teach myself well enough that I was able to create a small program, which I then entered into the science fair and under the astronomy category. As you can see, there's my poster there. And I just thought that I would have been able to start, but it would have been a lot more painful and discouraging without AI to walk me through the steps of how to code, to offer me different resources on where to get my data, and just assist me with the entire process. And so if you give kids these tools, they're going to want to make things. And so independent learning is probably one of the best highlights of AI. Next. These are just some other projects and possibilities that you can have with AI that aren't STEM related, because I hear a lot about math and science because it's difficult, but it can also be a great supplement for all you teachers out there that teach things like English or are just trying to help students get more organized. So on the top corner, that is just more science stuff, but it is more about finding sources. I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of the AI application Perplexity, but I highly recommend Perplexity in the classroom because if you don't want students to be using as much generative AI, it is not really meant for generative AI. It is more so a kind of data aggregation tool. It's like an advanced Google search. So it's really good at summaries of things. And it, as you can see at the top there, it shows all of the sources and gives footnotes of all of the sources it used. So whenever I'm having trouble finding sources in science and I just need a starting point, I always use Perplexity. So I'd highly recommend that. For English teachers or other people who need writing done, it is a great peer review partner. AI is a wonderful peer review partner for English. As you can see, I just stuck in a PDF of a writing project I did, and I told it to ask me questions that would get me thinking about my own writing. I said, don't rewrite any of it, just ask me some questions. And it is great at asking questions that get you started with thinking and can get you to realize things you wouldn't have realized on your own just thinking. Sometimes you need just an extra person or robot to get you started with that. Also, this last one, I'm kind of proud of this, is a Google Calendar that I created with AI. I did not even know it could do this, which highlights just how many possibilities there are, even for people like this group who know a lot about AI or a reasonable amount about AI. But there's always things that we're still finding out because the possibilities are just so endless. For this, I also am going to college pretty soon, and it was getting overwhelming for me to think about my college schedule. So I just stuck in a calendar of when are all the due dates for my college applications. I told GPT hey, can you please make me a Google Calendar? And it did. I was actually really surprised that it did. But as you can see there, it transitioned from kind of an ugly spreadsheet to a beautiful, streamlined Google Calendar that I was just able to download and put in. So it never hurts to ask the AI to do something because oftentimes it can, and oftentimes it will give you a really cool surprise. So yeah, those are just some of the things that you can ask your students to do with AI, let them play around with, and both your students and you will probably be surprised at the possibilities. Okay, I'm going to pass it on to Mahia.
Hi guys. Okay, so we're going to be talking about how AI has changed my life. We already went into a little brief synopsis earlier, but as you guys can see, this is like pictures of all the crazy stuff that I was able to do. Mind you, again, first 2 years of high school, wasn't doing much. I had no extracurriculars. And so once I kind of mastered the whole like, okay, academically, my grades are doing okay. I pretty much have A's. I was like, I gotta kind of get my resume going, some extracurriculars just in case. And at that point, I had learned how to use my potential as a learner. And so I knew learning came easy to me. And like, I was a big nerd and all that kind of stuff. I was just like, okay, now that I can do school easily, what else can I do? And that's when I started getting into, as you guys can see, I'm at the Hawai'i Business Magazine Wahine Forum. I'm sharing with business owners decades older than me. I was on the What School Could Be podcast. There's me at the, what is that, the left, bottom left at the UH Manoa Hawaii Book and Music Festival. Oh my God, there's so many different events. But yeah, as you guys can see, a whole lot of stuff that I've been able to be involved in. Okay, next slide. So a huge value of mine is growth. So this is like, again, I think GPA numbers aren't everything coming from someone who I would say does not, my GPA never reflected what I felt my intelligence level was, and that was one of my biggest frustrations. But getting it up is also something that matters, unfortunately, in today's world, and so that was really awesome. And then from there, I was also able to get a head start on my degree. So Kamehameha is awesome with giving us dual credit opportunities, meaning I can earn both high school and college credit. But on top of that, I decided to go to Hawaii Pacific University's online little program where I could take business courses. So I think I took around 7 business courses in the course of 6 months and was able to get a really good head start on my degree. And so as someone who is, again, super into self-growth, I was like, what better than to actually start my own business? And so I realized that there was a huge gap between what business owners knew about social media and me as a teenager who grew up on all the apps knew. And so I decided to create my own little social media marketing agency. I was using AI to teach me how to cold call into random businesses. I was getting onto Zoom calls and being able to close clients. I think in my first 2 or 3 weeks, I was able to close an $1,000 deal because I had the help of AI and I was 16 years old, it was still crazy to me. But having the tools, again, like Liz was saying, and like Gigi was saying, being able to have something be your force multiplier. I think one of the biggest things, especially in education, right, is like this thing is gonna take shortcuts. It's gonna, take away all the good stuff that, we need to do and teach kids. But one of the hugest things that's been for me is it takes away the roadblocks that stop me from wanting to do things. If I'm ever not motivated to do homework, if I'm ever not motivated to learn, I have something that can make it fun, that can say, here's a game plan of how you can do things. Here's my own personal mentor, my own personal motivator. It's literally at my fingertips. I can call up ChatGPT and be like, I'm so stressed with homework. Or ChatGPT, I don't get this math problem. Can you walk me through it? Can you talk me through it? Can you be encouraging? Stuff like that. Go to the next slide really quick. So this is another example of like literally how motivating it can be. So I had a friend who was doing their personal human anatomy homework, and they were like, this is so complicated. It's, crazy. And I was like, hey, let's make a ChatGPT bot to help you. And they were like, what are you talking about? So in less than 10 minutes, we were able to turn their concept of human anatomy homework into a game they could play on their laptop. And so like this isn't necessarily trained on their class, like you could train it on your exact quiz data or whatever you want to study, but we just kind of did it as an example. In this thing, basically, you are this main character. You're going through this whole story, and it's going to see you're in this futuristic lab. You're surrounded by glowing holograms. And then it asks you the question, right? Which organ is most likely the problem here? And it has a picture along with it. And so the whole thing is set up so that if you get it right or wrong, the storyline will alter accordingly. So if you get it right, you get another question. If you get it wrong, you get a different question, but everything comes into a game-like storyline. So for people who have ADHD like me, and we love to learn, but we rely on constant stimulation or something to, be a little more entertaining for our brain, this is a huge, huge help. Okay, next. So again, I've also been involved with the skills just like Siandri, and one of the wonderful things I've been able to do, first of all, is go alongside Hannah Grady Williams, which is the CEO. I got to speak to 800 teachers at the end of Hannah's keynote, which was insane. And then also help them along by being a business development consultant. So I started off in a little AI boot camp of theirs, actually this time last year, and then went from that to actually helping them cold call into school. So I got to speak to principals, try to get through to superintendents, emailing people, getting through the little people at the desk and trying to reason with them as to how they should let me as a student talk to them and hear everyone's concerns about AI. And so it's really, really interesting to see the different perspectives, and I've gotten to hear from it, both the good and bad firsthand. But really be able to help other students harness the same tools. I think there's one thing along all of this, what I've learned from being someone who struggled in school to now someone who's pretty much, I mean, mastered the school thing and been able to go above and beyond, is that I think we are so easy to judge a student's potential or their intellect, how they are based on, right, these numbers or their performance, when in reality, there's so much more at play. And you never know what's going on in the student's life, what they're struggling with, or what they, might need help with. And so I think as a teacher, it's your job to learn to unlock that and figure out how can we help this student, specifically towards them. And I think AI is going to be a huge, huge help in that for the future of education.
Awesome. Wow. Well, first of all, that was awesome. I think everybody should just open their mics right off the bat and cheer for these young learners. These were extraordinary presentations. So first off, beautifully, beautifully done. And beautifully presented as well. You all clearly have some experience doing some public speaking. That was really great. So I haven't seen a whole lot of questions appearing in the chat yet. I hope folks will jump in. We've got about 15 minutes or so to ask some questions. And I can get us started. I was impressed, deeply impressed by how well you all seem to understand yourselves as learners. And I think that's something that we sometimes underestimate as educators is the value or the importance of learners really understanding their own learning style. So I wanted to start by just giving you that compliment because I think that's so powerful. I'm curious whether you all can envision how AI would work or whether it would work with younger age groups. Like, how young do you think could handle this and have it benefit them as learners? And anybody can take that question, whoever would like to jump in from our students.
I could answer that one briefly.
Yeah.
I think so. I get this question a lot, and my answer kind of always is that, it depends on the institution, the school, but also even down to the teacher itself. I've had kindergarten and even preschool teachers come up to me and be like, I'm interested in using this in my classroom. What is the ways that I can do that? And so I think the biggest thing to kind of recognize in this situation is that teachers are still the manipulators of the ways that this can be implemented into their classroom. And so, specifically with our younger age groups, one of the projects that the teacher had been talking to me about was that they're going to make a picture book, right? And so she's like, but I really want to focus on their reading comprehension, but also their ability to be writing concisely, but also still be imaginative because they're children, right? And so I said, well, maybe if you want to focus on the writing aspect of that, you have them kind of work on that as a physical assignment, but you could implement an AI image generator for their project. Have them write the most fantastical prompts into the prompt box, and then have it pop out this fantastical image for their storybook. And I think that kind of that's one of the examples that I like to share about of the ways that teachers can still kind of control the situation around AI in their own classroom, even down to our youngest children. And so I thought that would be a good one to mention.
Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you for
Also,
that.
can I add that
Yeah.
I think that oftentimes we totally underestimate how intelligent kids are, especially when it comes to electronics and especially this new generation of students. They are absolutely incredibly tech savvy. Even my generation, I think we started having, at my old school, we started having computer classes in maybe kindergarten or first grade, and we are already coding simple games in like computer class by, early elementary school, like second grade or so. So I think that younger kids could absolutely use AI. And I think that they could actually find a lot of pretty interesting ways to use it that we haven't thought of yet, just because of how creative they are. So I think that allowing them to have access to that tool would be kind of an interesting experiment for both them and us. So yeah, I think don't underestimate your younger students and give them access to tools that are new. They can test them out, and they'll also be very honest about what they think about the new tool too. So you'll get some good feedback.
Yeah, 5-year-olds don't know how to not be 100% honest. That's a great answer. Thank you, Liz. Ashley, you have a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Jennifer. So a few of you mentioned that while you were presenting that some people think AI is for cheating and are very distrustful, and there's a fear. So I'm curious, and it sounds like you also were alluding it's not just teachers or adults, it's also some of your peers may feel that way. So I'm curious if anyone wants to share or has a story to kind of reflect on if there are also like if who has the biggest distrust and haters and, oh, you're cheating by doing that. Is it your peers and the adults? More adults than the peers? And then also, have you experienced someone completely changing their mind due to your work and you sharing and modeling how you can use it appropriately and effectively? That story kind of transformation I'm really curious about.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that. Thank you, Ashley, for that question. And I would like to say the the part where the distrust comes from what I've seen, it comes from mainly a lot of my teachers, especially at my school. So we do have ChatGPT, um, Copilot, all these different chatbots are blocked at our school through our Wi-Fi, and the use of AI is also like strictly prohibited in our teachers' syllabuses and stuff like that. But we also have a couple teachers at my school, most notably my AP US history teacher and my AP world teacher. So the same teacher, he actually advocates for the use of AI ever since it came out. And he tells us to like use AI for these assignments that are more typically more busy work and you don't actually get a lot out of these. They're not really helping you learn or like pass the AP exams at the end, right? So he says use AI for these assignments. And him himself, he even uses AI to plan our course lessons sometimes. He's like, shoot, what should I do next class? And then he'll type in ChatGPT and he'll be like, give me a course lesson on blah, 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 of the units and all that, right? And I also see him use it pretty frequently. However, for other teachers and stuff like that, my English teacher, my AP language teacher, she doesn't like the use of artificial intelligence, especially because a lot of students, we don't like to sit here and type out essays for like 40 minutes, right? Taking an hour long on these assignments that seem notably like useless or worthless to us. So we're obviously going to be like, ChatGPT, write me an essay for that. And then these students, right? I've seen this a lot happen. They're just going to take that essay and then turn it in as their own work. And that's where that distrust comes from. But I feel like the part that where they don't understand is they can actually use it to help them. And I feel like that's more of a maturity thing of like how you view yourself as a learner. And it's like almost your responsibility. So I feel like that's the part where that distrust comes from those adults.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that answer, Anson. That was great. And I would agree with you. I've noticed that English teachers or writing teachers, myself included, probably have some of the highest distrust in that sense. And I think, but I've been hearing some wonderful strategies about how to, use it to help organize your ideas and things like that. And as an author myself, I've finally started to use it to help me organize information and ideas and things like that. So it's been really valuable. Carla, you had a question in the chat. What if you would open up your mic, and then Josh, you're next after that. Oh, we can't hear you, Carla. There's something wrong with your mic. I mean, you've got it on, but it's not, we're not hearing you. So maybe in the interest of time, I'll read it for you. Is that okay? So Carla's question is, can you give more examples of how you use AI to help with servant leadership projects? And she wrote, I work with students to develop these kinds of projects. Thanks, I'm inspired by all of you. So any thoughts on how AI might help with servant leadership projects?
Yeah, of course. I can answer that one because that's something I mentioned as one of my values. I think the biggest ways that AI could help with servant leadership projects would be kind of the biggest thing that I can think of is like timelines, right? And deadlines, but also things you want to do. I think with or after the students come up with kind of the ideas of what they want to do, right? For me, that was food systems policy, ultimately to result in um,
Oh shoot, Gigi, we're losing you.
in our public
Oh
schools,
shoot.
um, having access to more food inside the school. Oh, oh
Yeah,
no. Can you
we're
hear
having a
me?
little trouble. We
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you, but you're really chopping
Can
up.
you hear me?
Let's turn off
Oh
your,
no.
can you turn off your
Can you guys
video
hear?
and let me see if stopping your video might help. Try again.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
A little better. Yeah. Say that again.
Okay. So,
Shoot.
um,
I'm sorry, Gigi. It's not better. Oh, shoot. If you can start to like see if you can move closer to
saying that
your internet source, maybe. Would somebody else like to jump in
when
on that question while
one
we figure out what's going on with Gigi?
Yeah, I can add.
Okay.
Okay. So that was about servant leadership. Okay, yeah. I do a lot of one of my passions is teaching other people about what I learned, because once I become passionate about something, it is actually difficult for me to not talk about it. So I like to channel that energy into outreach, especially with younger kids. I always find that really fun. And so AI, for me, I think the main part of that I use it for is just teaching me about the subjects that I can then teach to the other people. It's great for like simplifying things too. So if you need like a long thing that you've written or someone else has written, just summarized, that's a great way to get it explained to people who, aren't that familiar with the field yet. And you can also just guide others into the use of AI to get them to be able to uh, explain it for themselves too. At one point, I was the one being outreached to, so that's kind of how I got started in a lot of these scientific fields, is just getting this nice head start. But yeah, I think that AI really does help with just thrusting someone into something they're not maybe that comfortable with, but in kind of a safe and very very customizable way. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you for that, Liz. And Gigi, I believe, is trying to type some answer for you, Carla, since we're having difficulty with her sound. In the meantime, Josh, please pose your question. Oh, and I'm going to turn off the screen sharing as well, if you all don't mind, just so we can see each other, and it may help a little bit with the internet. So, Josh, ooh, you're muted.
A rookie mistake. Okay. Actually, I'm going to potentially defer on my question because Paul Turnbull has joined us. And Paul, are you able to? Yes, he's able to turn on his video. Paul, we only have about 3-4 minutes left. Could you share just quickly the ways that students are serving on your AI council at Mid-Pacific, and the roles that they're playing and the impact that they're having?
Sure. Really good question. Thank you. And thanks for hosting. So we have an AI advisory council, as Josh had mentioned. It has about 6 industry experts from Microsoft, NVIDIA, different universities, and others. And our students in particular play a role, one, to bring the student voice to the council, because Too often adults will talk about the lives of kids without actually including kids. And two, you've got such great potential, such great attitudes and experience right at the fingertips, right on any school campus. We would be crazy not to ask them about their own opinions. And so we have these really good conversations that students are actually guiding with experts. So they can go back to their offices, international companies, and they can say, here are the things we're hearing, here are the things we're seeing. And oh, by the way, let's give these students some opportunities, because not everybody should have to wait for 4 years of undergrad to decide maybe they want to do something. Gigi wasn't able to finish her sentence, but I can tell you that Gigi is like 100% on the way. And if I don't listen to her, then that means that somewhere, 2 years from now, I'm going to make a bad mistake.
I love it. That's great. Gigi, I haven't seen an answer from you yet, but we do have one more question here from Lisa. Question one persistent, actually, Lisa, if you want to turn on your mic, it's probably easier for you to just ask your question.
Sure, I'll come back on camera. My husband was like popping in because he wanted to say hi to Josh. But anyway, I don't know if he does that. I was like, I'm gonna turn my camera off. I've really been thinking about this. I work with a nonprofit that supports teachers and school leaders in implementing project-based learning. We've really been thinking about how to leverage AI in our workshops and our development of things. And one persistent objection I've started to hear is not just internally, but from others out in the field, is about using AI and the impact on the environment. How it generates high levels of energy consumption, water use, e-waste. How do you guys feel about this? Because I'm imagining you're all care a lot about the environment growing up on Oahu. And how would you respond to those concerns?
Who would like to try to offer an answer on that one? And then we'll wrap up. Yeah, Liz.
I can. So as you can tell, I'm really into the earth sciences and the physical sciences. So I definitely care about the environment a lot. And as Mr. Rapun just mentioned, this question did come up on our Schools of the Future panel too. But something that I like to think about it is that if we're using AI intentionally with the environment in mind at the start, then that is really how we can be careful to not just add it into that lump of technologies that just creates more problems for us than good. So AI definitely has been speeding up the scientific process just in the world. I mean, it's exponential, this technology growth. And so I believe that if we use it with the intention of fixing problems like what we have with our environment, creating just novel ideas about energy sources and advancing research, then even if it gets worse, it will get better eventually because we're using our tools for good. I mean, we can start transitioning into better energy sources that are assisted with AI. And also, I'd like to mention that a lot of AI companies, because they are aware of this problem, they're working to create smaller size models that actually use less energy. So yeah, that is definitely a concern. But we are aware of the concern, the companies are aware of the concern, and so we just have to hold them responsible and keep bringing that up, right? And make sure to keep an eye on possible companies that are creating more sustainable models. And there's always room for progress, but I don't think that we're going to make any progress if we reject new technologies.
Right.
Liz, that was a fabulous answer. Thank you. I love it. I'm glad we have it on tape. So good.
Yeah. We've got an answer here from Gigi that I will read out as well, and then we'll close up. She wrote, I think that the biggest way AI can help with servant leadership projects is in the planning and execution of the project itself, so that students may gain a clear vision of the way that their servant leadership may be achieved, but also allow them to possibly reflect on the significance of what they're doing. That's wonderful. Great answer. And Mahealani, do you want to jump in and have a last word there?
Oh yeah, there's even apparently Sam Altman, the guy for OpenAI, was saying if you say please and thank you to ChatGPT, you're costing millions in operational expenses. So even those few words cost a lot environmentally and money-wise.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, we do. But I appreciate that idea that what we need to do is be conscious of it and behave in ways that take that into consideration, right? And which I think is a really valuable way to frame it. I am so sorry we are out of time. We are at an hour. That was an amazing, that flew by. Mel, do we have some upcoming events that you want to mention? And then we'll do a last round of applause and close up.
Thanks, Jennifer. We don't have a date set yet for this next one, but our next Ion Student Protagonism will feature a 17-year-old innovator from Pakistan named Raheen Fatima. So Raheen is very interested in AI, but she also has a number of projects that she's been running since she was 12, including a podcast with educators all around the world, which is how Jennifer met her. So we'll be posting registration information on our events tab in the community, but also on our website, whatschoolcouldbe.org/events.
And we are hoping that within the end of this school year, we will also get a chance to hear from students from the open school here in Colorado, sharing about some extraordinary projects and experiences in connection to a trip to the Mexican-American border. We're working on that one still, so some really great things coming up still this year. This has been incredible. I think everybody's really excited to have this recording. Josh, quick comment.
Fist
Yes.
bump.
Oh, you want to do this? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay. So
fist bump.
the way we close in most of our events these days is with a classic fist bump or power to the people, depending on how you want to hold your hand. So if everybody would bring that up, make sure your fist does not cover your face.
Lisa.
That's important. There you go.
1, 2, 3. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much to our students. Thank you, John, for helping to facilitate all of this in the background. Loved the answers to the questions, loved the insights that you were sharing. I think all educators, especially those who are nervous about using AI, really need to watch this recording because you all demonstrated not just that it's useful for getting stuff done, but that there are so many layers to what you can do with it. And that was just wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing your work. Turn on your mics, if you would, you guys, so that they can hear the cheers.
Well played. Nice work.
Very well played. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful afternoon
Guys,
or
thank you all for coming.
evening.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. See you hopefully on the next event.